Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Yati from Earth to Plates, and today we are going to be spending our day out in the garden. And let me tell you what we're going to be doing. So, last year, not even last year, this spring, we put in these 3 beds that you can see right here. And we knew right away that our long-term goal will be to add on more beds. And we are ready to do that. And we hope to have it ready for next year's garden year. So, in order to have that ready, we have to start now. What we're going to do today is, I don't know if you can see, but back there we have a little bit of soil left that we had ordered when we filled these beds in the spring. And we're going to use some of that to level out this surface, because last year what we did was, also in the fall, we put down some wheat fabric over there. That's the black thing that you can see. And when it came to putting down the beds, they were not completely level. And we struggled a little bit. We figured out how to do it, but it was very hard. So we decided that this year, since we have that extra soil anyways, we're going to try to level this out a little bit more before we put down the wheat fabric, and then we'll be able to build the beds and put it in place and fill it in the spring. So we're going to start by removing the gate around the garden, around the current garden, and like that we'll be able to get rid of any grasses and weeds that have been popping up from under the edges of the wheat fabric. Once we have that done, we'll spread out the soil to make it level, and we'll put down the wheat fabric. Now, we have about 2 hours today to be out here, so we'll see how much we get done. Whatever we don't get done today, throughout the fall and winter, whenever we have decent weather that we can be outside and work outside, I'll bring you guys along for this journey. So our goal for next year is to add 3 more beds right here in the front of those beds, and then 3 more beds behind it. So we will be working in the front and in the back of our current garden. And let's go. I'm gonna have my husband here helping us out today. I could not do this without him. Last year he helped me as well with those garden beds. So let's get going. The first thing we're starting with is removing the wire fencing that we have around the gate. Now you can see my husband's pulling it up, no problem. And I actually went in and I saw that a garlic has popped up of the bed. That is totally okay. You just have to make sure over the winter to keep it covered with mulch, or in my case, leaves. Now I am starting to pull up the wire fencing from the other side, and as you can see, I am struggling. And I realized afterwards it is because we had apparently put down some landscape staples to keep the bottom on the grass, and the grass grew over it. But the thing that was resisting was those landscape staples. It didn't want to just come out. And we had put it in to help prevent some animals from getting in to the garden. So what my husband's going to do now is he's coming around and he's cutting the wire at the T-post so that it should be a little bit easier to pull it up once he's done, to get that little piece that's left. And while he's doing that, I'm going around and I'm taking all the pots that we have around the garden and putting them onto the beds to overwinter over there, so that whenever we're out in the garden over the winter working on this garden expansion, these won't be in the way, and hopefully they don't topple and fall over. Once we finished removing the fencing from the front, we did the same thing in the back, and there was a scrap piece of wood. I decided to move it now because we're going to have to move it later anyway, so might as well just get it out of the way now while my husband was cutting it. And over there were many layers of different type of fencing that we were trying out, because we had a groundhog that kept coming in from that corner. And as he's cutting the second side, I am pulling up the wire fencing from the end that he has already cut. And over there, you can see it's going super easily. It was just that front side, one side, that was very difficult to pull up. Okay, now that we've finished removing the gate from the front and the back, we decided to leave the sides for now. We got the weed whacker. We're gonna get rid of any grasses that were growing under the bottom of the gate, and will help, and it'll also help grind up the leaves that were sitting in the corners over there as well. And then we're gonna remove those so that we have a smooth transition between the old floor and the new floor. Before we actually go ahead and do the weed whacking, we're gonna remove the headers and the posts that held up the gate so that we can weed whack everything. And what I'm doing meanwhile is picked up a bunch of zip ties that won't compost over here in place. One final thing before we start the weed whacking is we're going to remove the beams that held up the gate. Now this was built to be temporary because we knew that this gate was not going to last, because we knew that we want to do this expansion. So we had just dug a hole, we had placed the beam in there, the wooden, whatever it is, 4x4, and then we just put some scrap piece of wood in there to keep it level and straight. And you can see that one side came out really, I had to wiggle it a little bit, and you'll see over here I lost my footing because I expected some more resistance. But once I got those little pieces of wood out, we can get out the two support beams, and then we're going to go ahead and remove the T-posts from the back as well. And I'm going to put those in the garden shed while my husband starts weed whacking. While my husband's getting started on that, I come around and I am going to rake up the leaves that are in the corners of where the gate was and put those leaves back on the garden beds. We had wetted those, we had hosed it down, but we had such strong winds and no rains over the last few weeks before this video was recorded, and the leaves just went flying. So I figured until it doesn't rain or it doesn't get too cold, it's fine. So what I'm doing here is I'm raking them in between the beds. And I think later on this day, or a day or two later, my husband came out and actually put them onto the bed because it was going to rain and get a little bit colder. So he had put those on to the beds at a later point, and once it rained, the leaves get heavier and they weigh down onto the bed. But because it didn't rain, it didn't have enough water, then it just kept flying away with the wind. It was very light. And I see, whenever I go out now, that I see that the leaves are starting to break down already. So that's a good thing. Okay, the next thing we're going to be doing is mowing the grass on a very low setting so that we can see where the dips and the valleys are, so we can fill them more easily than just predicting with the grass. So my husband's getting the lawnmower out, and we're going to get going on that as well. Okay, so our lawnmower is not turning on, so we're just going to skip that, and we're just going to start filling up the dips and valleys with soil. So I'm going to start by bringing over the wheelbarrow to my husband. We're going to fill it up. We're going to start out over here in the front to filling it up. Once we brought over the wheelbarrow with the soil, the first thing my husband did was he filled up the holes that had the 4x4s for the gate. And next he's just starting to spill the soil, random spots throughout the garden floor. And we're just using rakes and our hands to break up the clumps because they've been sitting for a little while, and that's just what happens, that they form chunks. And leveling it out, smoothing it out. This area, as you'll see later on, is basically level with some dips and valleys. It had quite a few like bumps, but nothing too extreme, and it wasn't very hard to fill it up. You'll see the other side was a lot of work. But that's what we're doing right here. We're just smoothing it out the best that we can, and once we have an area covered, I just come around and I just stomp on them to compress it a little bit so that once we put down the wheat fabric, it is not soft underneath. And also to help us figure out if we need to add more soil to it or it's fine as is, because when we first put it down, it's just full of air still. And once I compress it, I know that if it was a bigger valley, if I need to add more soil to make it level or not. So we're just gonna go ahead and do this until the entire area is pretty much level. And here I'm just giving you a close-up shot of my husband raking and walking on it to press it down. Okay, now that we've got this leveled, we're getting some landscape fabric. We're going to roll it out. We're going to cut it with a blowtorch so that it prevents it from raveling. And we're going to cover this area before we go ahead and finish the other side in case if we don't have time to do it all today. From last year's experience, we learned that the easiest way to roll it out is just walking it and kicking it to cover the space that you want to do. And then my husband is getting his blowtorch and quote unquote cutting it by melting it with a fire because this fabric is made out of plastic. And that's the best way to cut it and prevent it from raveling. Okay, now we also have a box of these called landscape staples. This is what they look like. And these we will put at the ends to help secure it in place so that it doesn't fly away in the wind. These fabrics come rolled up in a double layer, so we're unfolding it and we're going to start securing them with landscape staples. All we do is just push it through the fabric and then using a hammer, which I forgot to bring out, so I'm going now inside to get it while my husband's starting to push it in, as you can see. And then I'm just getting the hammers and we're going to hit it into place because apparently that end, I guess, had some very soft spots, so he was able to do it with his hand. But some spots are really rocky. And that's one of the reasons why I garden in the garden beds, because we have very rocky soil. And when I tried gardening in the ground, it didn't go very well. So here we go. Apparently he put it in the most that he can, and he's just securing it with a hammer. And then I'm going to join him and I'm going to help him out with this as well. And we're going to pull the fabric tight so that it can be nice and smooth. And as you can see, this is why we put down the staples, because in the wind it will fly up and we don't want any light to reach this, because then that will help that the grasses should grow through the fabric. Because it doesn't get any light, it should die back over the next few months. Here we go again, moving on to the next layer of fabric. We're going to roll this all out again by just walking and kicking. And this makes the whole process go super fast. And now as you can see, this is how it just melts away. And we're cutting it like this. I love watching the process, and it helps to be there, to have someone else there, because in case the fabric continues burning, which does happen, then somebody can just stomp on it to choke out the flames. And here we go, stapling it in, hitting the staples into the ground. And like I said, some were easier, some were tougher, some bent, and we just pulled it out and went a different path. And sometimes, if it was really tough, and we got quite a bit of the staple in, we just let the staple bend and secure it like that. Even though it didn't go fully in, we felt that it was sturdy enough, like you can see that one. And we're just gonna finish off the rest of it, go all the length of it, staple it in, do the layers until we're done. And look at the magic of editing. Okay, so we filled up the space that I assumed that we needed. I got out a tape measure, and I know how much space I want between the beds, and like for the walkway and the length of the bed. I measured it and I saw that we are perfect. So we're gonna call it done for this day. Okay, so this will be it for me today. My husband might finish up the back, but I have to go right now. So we finished this side, and this is major progress. Even though it didn't take a lot of work, this is a lot of mental load off. The first step of the expansion is done. So we're gonna finish off over here for today. And if we do anything in the back, I'll show you guys the next time I come out of here with you. And we'll see you next time. Hey guys, so it is the next day, and yesterday my husband didn't get to do much. It was getting late. He also had stuff to do. So today, it's a nice weather again. We decided let's see how much we can get done today. And just like yesterday, today we actually have about 1.5 hours around. So let's see what we can get done today. We're going to start again by leveling out, and we'll go from there. So today's work is a lot harder for two reasons. Number one, we have this mountain of soil that's sitting right here that we have to level out. And number two is that this entire area is sloped. Aside for the dips and valleys that it has, it is sloping. Like the angle where the camera is, this corner is completely lower from both other ends of the garden. It just like angles completely to that corner. So it took a lot of work, and you'll see this. We couldn't do this in one day. So first thing we tried was just like you see my husband doing, just getting the soil with a shovel, throwing it to different corners, different areas of the garden, and then using the rake to level it out and smooth it out. And then we saw that this is just a lot of work, and to get it completely level, where we have to level it to the end of where the current garden is, so like match the height of the landscape fabric over there, and then try to get it the most level throughout this entire area. So you'll see the brilliant idea that my husband came up with that made the work. Was it easier 100% to get it level, but it was a lot of time and a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat that went into this. But you know what? All this work that is going into it in the end will help us produce the delicious vegetables that we have planned for the garden and our long-term goals with this garden. So it is worth all the time and effort that we are putting into it right now. Okay, so as we started working in this area, we realized that yesterday's work, we had a lot of little bumps. Versus today, we don't have as many, but the ones that we do have are very big areas. So my husband came up with the idea of getting a piece of wood, and we'll use that as a guide so that we know when we're straight. And we're gonna backfill, get it sort of level. Even though it's not 100% perfect, if we're almost there, it's good enough. And as we backfill, we're gonna move it up to make sure that the entire area is more or less level. Now that we figured out the best way to try to get this area level, we decided to get the wheelbarrow back out and fill that up with soil so that wherever we have spots to fill, it would be a lot easier to have the wheelbarrow that we can just fill the soil instead of bringing shovel after shovel after shovel to backfill those areas. And you'll see that what we're doing is we're just using the wood that we got as a guide, and we're packing up the soil with our hands, packing it down, um, getting it the smoothest possible level with the wood. And as we finish the length of it, and we'll just flip it and do another section and another section and another section, just like that until we finish the entire area. This will take multiple rounds, multiple days, lots and lots and lots of work. We did not realize what we got ourselves into when we envisioned our garden coming this way. It was a lot of work, but now that it is done, I can tell you that it feels so good. It feels like a huge area, which once we put the beds down, it won't feel that way. It'll feel like it's a lot of area to plant in, but not as big of an area that we took away from our backyard, which I wouldn't say we took away because we're adding to it. We're adding life to it. We're not taking anything away. And as you can see, as we're working in this area, there's a lot more soil that you see than grass. The other side of the garden, when we were doing this, you saw lots of grass still poking through, even though we had leveled it out with the soil. But over here, you barely see the grass, and that just shows you how much more work had to go into it, if you can gauge from this. But this is something that, yeah, as you can see, the entire thing will be covered up in soil versus, and you'll have just tiny little spots of grass poking through. Okay, so I have to go now. So my husband's gonna finish up a little bit more, but we're done for today. So we'll see you guys the next time that we come out here. This side of the garden is a lot harder to level out. So I'm happy that we started early in the season so that we have the time to do this without feeling rushed. And the next time we come out here, I'll bring you guys along again. It's another day today, the third day in a row that we're out here, and we hope to be able to finish this today. We are getting a late start, way later than the last 2 days, but we'll see how much we get done today. My goal is to finish this today because it's supposed to rain over the next few days, and I would love to have this done before, but let's see how much we get done. Well, as I mentioned, on this day, we started significantly later than we did the other 2 days, and we were racing against the sun to finish this off so that we can get this done before the rain started. And what we realized also was that we do not have enough soil. As you can see, the little mountain of soil that we had over here is done, and my husband is digging into a little mountain of soil, which is actually compost, which we had used to fill up the beds. And we realized that we were not going to have enough to finish this entire area and get them all to the same exact level. So we decided that we're going to level it completely straight, match the level across the entire area till the end of this last bed over here. Once we reach the end of this and we're working on the walkway, we decided that we're going to slope it down and let it transition back to the level of the soil right over here. And we figured that if it bothers us at any point, then we can just pick up the landscape fabric, backfill it, and put the landscape fabric back on. But just to get this project completed, for now, this is what we decided to do. And because we are racing against the clock, you can see the lights are already turning on. It's starting to become dark. I am going to go ahead and start placing the landscape fabric down while my husband finishes leveling off the walkway. So what I'm doing is that I am going to create a little patch between the old walkway and into the new area of the garden because we don't have anything over there that we can overlap. We had finished it off last year exactly where the bed finished. Because I had known that we want to extend the garden, I didn't realize that I'm going to want to do it on both ends. I thought I'll just do it on the front. But once I started planting the past year, I was like, no, I could use 6 more beds, not just 3. So I started off by just overlapping a little bit over the old wheat fabric and into the new section. Like that, once we came and did it across the new section, it overlapped that little patch and there won't be any space in between for anything to grow and pop up in between if there's any cracks. And once my husband is done leveling this area, he is going to come and join me and fill in those little patches in the walkways with me. And now we're going to finish off laying down the landscape fabric, one section at a time, and we're going to work as quickly as possible, fighting against the dark. As you can see, it's getting really dark and the footage is not going to be very clear. So I am not going to show you most of it. And it became a family project. All of us came out and worked on this until we were done for the day. Okay, so as you can see, it is dark outside already. We finished up the most that we could. We ran out of wheat fabric, so this is it for today. We're gonna have to order more and come back and finish this, but for now, this is done. I'm gonna come out maybe tomorrow when we have light again, and I'll show you what this looks like. It is a week later. Actually, no. We finished it on a Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. So it actually did rain on Thursday, it rained on Friday, and we had left it. This rain turned into snow, and I'm happy that we finished the most that we could. Yesterday, I remembered that last year we had some leftover wheat fabric. So we grabbed that and we were able to finish this last section right over here. So what we did was that we took the extra wheat fabric that we had from the roll that we used for the entire length, and that was perfect to cover up this section, and we didn't have to cut anything. And then the fabric that we had from last year was also perfect, just a little bit of overlap between the two, which makes it perfect, and this project is completed for now. The next step will be building our beds, which will be later on in the year. We are good for now. Last year we built these beds, I believe in February and March, whenever it was nice out. So we're probably going to end up doing about the same thing, or whenever we have a chance to buy the wood, we'll buy it, keep it on the side, and whenever we have a chance to build it, whenever it's nice weather, we'll come out and build it and slowly get the beds in place. So if you enjoyed watching this video and want to see the progress of this expansion, then consider hitting the subscribe button so you can join us on this journey. And I showed you at the beginning of the video that some garlic has popped up, and you can see that right here. I have another one. No, that's not it. Here is another one. But as long as they're going to be covered, they're going to be fine. I'm going to add more layers of leaves later on. So, like I said, if you enjoyed this, consider hitting the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time we are out here for this project. I mean, I'll see you beforehand with other videos, but we'll see the garden the next time we do any more work out here.